you looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Hey Sub2ers, this is William Tingle of Sub2Deals.com and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show where we discuss all things subject to. Today's topic is insurance. How do you properly insure your Sub2 acquisition? Seems like we see those questions every week. There's a lot of confusion about exactly how to handle insurance and how to insure the property correctly. Well, it's really pretty simple process. Depending on who you listen to, how many different boards or groups you get into, you'll run into Guru A saying do this, Guru B saying do that, and then Guru C says both of them are crazy because he's done 1,000 deals and hasn't done anything, hasn't changed any insurance, and never had a problem. Well, I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a little over 20 years now and bought somewhere north of 500 properties. And what I did was, in the very beginning, I sat down with an insurance agent in my town and just told him exactly what I was wanting to do and asked his advice on how to take care of them. And, told him I'd be buying subject to existing financing, that I would be placing properties in trusts, and explained the whole process to him. And also decided to go with a reputable company. I actually went with State Farm in the beginning, and everything worked out well. As I said, I've bought over 500 houses. We have had some claims over the 20 years and have never had a problem getting paid. So apparently the advice the guy gave me was good, and everything's worked out real well. So if you know how to handle insurance, it's not really that difficult. I'm going to give you the way that I've done it for the past 20 years. You may hear other people say, don't do it that way. And listen, I'm not an insurance agent. I'm not an attorney. But as I said, I went with the advice of the agent. We've insured all of our properties this way. And anytime there's ever been a claim, we've always gotten a check. So how do we do it? Well, depending on who you listen to, you could do it just about any way. But again, like I said, I'm going to assume that you guys listening to this want to do it right. And doing it right means if there is a loss, you'll be covered. And plus your chances of seeing the due on sale police are minimized. Remember, from an earlier podcast, we talked about the due on sale clause. And one of the two main ways that the due on sale clause becomes a problem is mishandling the insurance. So we're going to talk about the ways today to do it properly, and we'll just let the gurus sort it out on their own. So to get started, you need to know some insurance fundamentals. Okay, number one, the owner of the property, as named on the deed found at the courthouse, must be listed as the primary loss payee. Failure to make sure that this is done after getting your deed will leave you dangerously exposed. And exposed isn't a good situation when it comes to real estate. Number two, the policy you have in place and are relying on must accurately reflect the current occupancy status of the property. This means if the owner on the deed lives there, the policy must be an owner-occupied policy, and the owner must be the primary loss payee on that policy. If the property's tenant-occupied, as will be the case with most investors, the policy must be a landlord or fire policy, and the owner or landlord or trust or corporation or LLC, however that property's titled, must be named as the primary loss payee. However, the legal title is held, this is who must be named as the primary loss payee. The primary loss payee's name is the name that will show through those mailing envelopes when they send you bills or renewals and so on. Number three, most insurance companies' first response, if there is a claim, is to try to deny it. And they're going to look for ways not to pay you. I mean, if you really think about it, how do you think they can insure your $200,000 house for a premium of only $1,000 a year, have a $50,000 claim, and make money? They don't. So they try to deny claims that come along. Okay, they'll actively look for ways to deny a claim. So don't give them a reason to be able to do it by not having the proper loss payee named. You'll find houses to buy subject to in two different scenarios: those with insurance and escrow, and that's going to be probably 95% of the houses that you buy. And then there are those where the homeowner pays for their policy themselves. They don't have an escrow. How you handle each will depend on how scared you are of the due on sale and your tolerance for risk. Okay. Now, some courses will tell you just to send in a change of address to the insurance company currently on record with the property and try to use that one. Listen, I tried that when I got started too. But what happened was you wind up buying houses from a bunch of different people who all have different insurance companies, and they all have different agents. So every time you buy a house, you've got to spend that time trying to educate the new agent on what's going on. And it's just a lot of trouble, and you just have a lot of different people to deal with. So what I'm going to recommend to you is that you go out right now and you find an insurance agent with a reputable company. Don't try to go cheap and go with some of these low fee insurance companies that you've never heard of. Go ahead and go with a big name, a reputable company. It's been around for a while. Sit down with an insurance agent and tell them what you do. Spend an hour with them, explain your business, and tell them you want to find one agent that you can do a lot of business with. And listen, they'll work with you. I mean, they want you. At one time when I lived in Georgia, I'm sure, my agent's biggest customer. And he worked with me. If I needed something done, he really took care of it. So go out now, find you an agent, and don't try to change the insurance policy and leave it with every insurance company on every house that you buy. It's really just difficult to do that. Go ahead and establish a relationship with an insurance agent, and he's going to be your guy. You're his customer. You got that relationship, and things will go a lot smoother for you. So, as I said earlier, there are really two ways that you'll find houses: properties with escrow and without. And for properties with escrow, this is kind of how we do it. Let's say that I get a property under contract that has an insurance policy with Allstate escrowed in the payment. Now, a couple of days before I take title, I'll call up my agent and talk to him about the house and tell him that I need for him to get me a policy together effective on whatever date with whatever mortgage company. And I'll give him the seller's name, the loan number, and the mortgage company's insurance department number. And, after a while, he'll have those numbers on hand anyway. But at first, that's what we're going to do. Now, once he's got all the information, we'll go ahead and we'll close on the property. And it doesn't matter if you do that kitchen table style with a notary or in an attorney's office. It really doesn't make any difference. By this time, the agent's been out. He's taken any photos that he needed, completed any paperwork that needed doing. He knows the date that I'm closing, so he knows on that date to send over to the mortgage company a request for disbursement for payment on the new policy. And the new policy, since I take title in a trust on every property, is going to show my trustee as the primary loss payee, just like my new deed will show the trustee as title holder. The mortgage company is going to be named as the mortgage company on the policy, and then the beneficial interest of the trust as they may appear. We also add the seller as an additional insured, and that just, in case the mortgage company looks over the new policy and sees that it's been placed in a trust, and then they'll look at the declaration page and they'll look down there and they'll see the name of the seller. That kind of makes them feel warm and fuzzy too. So that's how we handle it. Okay, it's not necessary to add them, but you go ahead and do it. And if there's ever a claim, and sure, any name on the policy is going to need to be involved in dispersing the funds, remember, we always get a power of attorney with our Sub2 deals. So we'll use that to sign in our seller's place if necessary, if any check comes in. That also works for escrow refunds, any claim checks. It doesn't matter. The power of attorney will take care of that. Now, we've replaced the Allstate policy with our policy, And what about the Allstate policy that was there? Well, we use our power of attorney to cancel that policy by fax or email, and we direct the agent to send the refund back to us. Now, once we have the refund, we've got our power of attorney. We can cash the check, we can deposit the check, whatever we like. So that works out real well. Okay, so just to recap how we do it, we get the house under contract. We inform our agent of the new house and the closing date and give them all the information on the seller, the lender, the loan number on the mortgage, and we close on the house. Our agent issues a new policy and informs the lender of the change and need for payment, and then we use our power of attorney to cancel the existing policy and get the refund. The new policy slides into place where the old policy was in escrow. The seller's happy because the house is sold. The lender's happy because payments are being made on time on the property and insurance is in place. Our insurance company's happy because they wrote a new policy on a good property and good customer. And we're happy because we just made another great deal on a Sub2 property. Everybody's happy in the deal except Allstate, and they just lost a customer. All right, now that's one way that you'll find them. The next way is what I call the Weenie Way. It's really just a joke, but if you're really scared of the due on sale clause, when you buy a property Sub2, you can go out and buy another insurance policy and just write a check for it. Now, when you do that, your agent will not name a mortgage company. They will simply list however you take title as the primary loss payee. If that's a trust, then that's going to be your trustee name. And then you'll name the beneficial interest of the trust as additional insureds. Now, when you go out and do that, you're going to pay for that policy out of pocket. And when you do, you'll leave the Allstate policy, or the policy that was existing. We're using Allstate as an example, but you'll leave your seller's policy that was in escrow in place, being paid out of escrow every year. Every year on your anniversary of buying the property, you'll go out and write a check to your agent to pay for the new policy. Yes, you're double paying, and some people I've heard say 2 policies on one property's insurance fraud. Well, that's no such thing. If your intent is to defraud somebody, yes, it is. But in case of a claim, you're only going to make a claim on your policy that you're paying out of pocket. The other one will not be valid anyway because the seller will no longer own the house, and it's most likely not going to be owner occupied, so it wouldn't be any good anyhow. So the cost to do that's really not that much. Typically on houses in the price range that we buy, an insurance policy is $1,000 or $1,200 a year. But it is an expense you wouldn't have if you took care of things the first way that we talked about. So that's really the 2 ways. With escrow, buying, replacing the insurance policy, and then with escrow having the 2 policy deal. And we'll talk about the other ways to take care of it in just a minute.
The Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Have you ever had a seller give you a house? It's a pretty awesome experience. If a seller wanted to give you a house today, would you know what needed to be done to make the deal happen? Would you like to learn how? The Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook will show you exactly what you need to get those deeds and sell those houses with seller financing. Join the thousands of other investors across the country who learned how to get the deed with the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook. Get the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook today at Sub2Deals.com. Back to the show, the Sub2Deals Show, with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
So we're back now, and we were talking about how to, the second way, which we call the Weenie Way, which was having 2 insurance policies on a Sub2 if you're afraid of the due on sale clause. So if you do it the second way, just to recap, you get the house under contract, you inform your agent of the house and the closing date. You close on the house, go to the agent's office, have him write a second policy naming no mortgage company, and you pay for it out of pocket every year. You'll leave the existing escrowed insurance policy in place doing nothing. So for properties without escrow, what do we do? Well, for properties without escrow, the original way is really the only way to go, unless you want to actually go out and buy two insurance policies with one in the seller's name and one in yours. As we said earlier, the great news is 90%, 95% of the sellers you deal with will have an escrow. Just remember, all of the forms, faxes, everything that you send in to insurance companies go to people in the basement, of some lender hundreds of miles from where you are. They really don't spend a lot of time around the water cooler talking about that investor in Des Moines who just tried to slip the old escrow insurance subject to trick by them. Okay, they're really just not that interested. Those guys just have forms with boxes on them that they have to check off, and that's what they do. They check them off. Does the property have insurance? Are we listed as the lender? And so on. So it's really not like they're all sitting around just in conspiracy with the due on sale police trying to catch you doing something. The important thing is just that you actually insure the property correctly. And remember, the key to that, first of all, is that the owner of record is named as the primary loss payee, and that the type of insurance fits the status of the property. If it's owner-occupied, it needs to be an owner-occupied policy, and if it's occupied by a tenant or somebody who does not have legal title, it needs to be a landlord or fire policy. If you guys have any questions about this, you can contact me at sub2deals.com, or of course our Facebook group, the Sub2 forum there. And if you're enjoying these podcasts, let me know. Send me an email and let me know. Or better yet, I don't know, which way you choose to listen, iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher. But if you'll go give us a 5-star review if you're enjoying it, and send me a screenshot, I'll do a 15-minute consultation with you on your real estate business, answer any questions that you may have, and so on. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope this has explained some things about insurance maybe that you didn't know, and get out there and buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit Sub2Deals.com, on Facebook at Sub2Deals. We'll catch you next time.